Hey everybody, it's your man James, Mr. Quinta Treasures, back again with another video for you guys. I know when you last saw it on my last video about Daniel Warren Johnson's Batman faux pas, I said that the next time you saw something, I'm going to be something fun, something light, something we can enjoy. And I hate having to break that promise, but I got some news yesterday that has kind of changed the situation. Um, I learned that yesterday my best friend of 41 years, Henry Babenko, died, and kind of tore me up. We've been friends. We were friends since the fifth grade, 1984. That's when we met. I'll I'll never forget it. It was we were in class, and Mr. Borowski, our teacher, came to us and said that we were going to get a new student in today. And that normally we don't take students in this late in the year because this was May. And he goes, we don't take students in this late, but this is kind of an emergency. And then he came in and he sat down, and then all of us, we all started talking with him. And me and him, we immediately bonded over the thing that, most Gen X kids would have bonded over in the mid 80s, Star Wars. Was there a Gen X child that didn't love Star Wars at that time? I don't think there was, but then I wouldn't see him again until seventh grade when I went to the junior high, now known as middle school by most of you today, but it was called the junior high back then. And, that's when, we reconnected, and that's when I learned of his love of music and movies. I mean, if you were playing Trivial Pursuits and you had music or movie questions, you would want him on your team. You would definitely want, because ain't nobody going to know more about it than he did. And, I learned of his love of that stuff. He would run lines from movies he saw and reenact some of the scenes. And I remember one time, I think this was eighth grade, and he had seen the movie Cobra with Sly Stallone. And there was a scene in the movie where he grabs a guy's shirt and pulls down and tears it, to like mess with him. And, for me, what he did was, I was wearing this red shirt for Gonzo Friday. It had all these Hawaiian images on it and stuff. I was wearing it for Gonzo Friday, and had a pocket on it. And in jest, he grabbed at the pocket, but he said he planned to let go and let his hand slide down to fake it, but his finger got caught, and he actually tore a little bit on the pocket. And he always felt bad about that. He goes, I didn't really mean to do that. I was just, running the scene. But that's how he was. It's if he had any flaws in him, it was his impulsiveness. He doing something without necessarily thinking it through all the time. He was like that, but that was just part of his charm, just someone who just did, what he felt, and he was a good person. He would never intentionally try to hurt anybody or cause harm. That wasn't his way. That wasn't his style. And then in ninth grade, over the summer of between eighth and ninth grade, he met a kid named Eric, and Eric got him into comics. And then when we came back into school in ninth grade, we were both in the same class that year, and him and Eric got me into comics. And you can see right here, I've arranged my spinner rack here. You can see it's Adventures of Superman, Batman, and John Byrne's Superman series. I put those up there today because, those were his favorite characters. He was always a big DC fan. He loved them. He loved Sergeant Rock. He loved, a lot of the DC stuff. And so I put them up today in tribute to him. His favorite time period from comics. These are all late 80s stuff, and that was his time. He loved that very much. And, he's the one that got me into comics. So the reason I do what I do today, it's all because of him. The letters I wrote in, being a letter hack, the writing reviews and commentary on websites, working in shops, schlepping art as an art rep, doing videos on YouTube, all of it's traced back to him, because he's the one that, really got me into comics. And, that's why this hurts so much. It's, you just don't really know how you're going to feel about something like this until it happens, and, but, as time went on, we hung tight, all through the 90s. We were boys. And like I said, his impulsiveness sometimes got the better of him. I remember one time we were planning to hang out and do some stuff, and instead he got a wild hair up his butt, and he went on a hunt, like a scavenger hunt, trying to find this one movie called The Last American Virgin. He found a video store that had one that was willing to sell it. And rather than, come hang out with me, he ran up, to far off to this video store to get that video, because that's all that mattered. And, just again, the impulsiveness sometimes. And I beefed at the time about it, but we got over it pretty quick because that's just the kind of friends we were. And but we always did the movie stuff. We always we watch go out and see movies all the time in the '90s. Right up until you know I I moved across the country because I met a woman online who I fell in love with and ended up marrying, who's now my wife and has been for a quarter of a century. And but even then, we still stayed in contact. We called each other all the time, always talking. And I was there for him when his father passed, and there for him when his mother passed. And I would take trips out occasionally back east because, of course, I got family there. I wanted to see my parents and my brother, sister, her kids. And I remember one year. I think it was 2006 or 2007, and I flew out to see my family. And of course, if I'm there, I'm going to go see him. So I went over to his house, and he wasn't there at the time, but his mother was. And so I sat down with her and I talked with her for a while, and I could see that, she was sort of, he was sort of the apple of her eye. He was her baby because he's the youngest of his siblings. And I think she saw in me that, I was a friend who really cared about him and always wanted the best for him, always trying to give him good advice, trying to help him out when I could. And I think she understood that. And because he had told me, in one of our many calls over the years, that she always had good things to say about me, that she appreciated me being such a good friend. But he wasn't there. And so we're like, how are we going to get him here? And I got hatched an idea. I said, call him on his cell phone and tell him there's a big package waiting for him here. That will get him here. And so she did, and he came, and I quickly ran back into his bedroom and hid. And he came in, he says, Mom, where's the package? He goes, oh, it's back in your bedroom. I had him put it back in your bedroom. And he walked back there, and he came in the bedroom, and I was sitting right there in the bed, and I just turned and looked at him, and he was like, just got this big ass shocked look on his face and smiled. I was like, no way. I got up, we got a hug, and then he ran back over the doorway and yelled out to Mom. He goes, hey, Mom, yeah, that was a good one. But that again, that's the kind of guy he was. He was a jovial guy. He will always, always, always seemed happy-go-lucky, at least on the surface. He never was one, like I said, who was a very dour and angry person. And he enjoyed the simple pleasures. I remember one year for Christmas. This might have been 2003. I bought some stuff for him from Christmas, and again, being a fan of movies, especially horror, he helped me develop my love of horror too. He was in the Fangoria magazine, getting the back issues, buying them all up. And there was this one issue, number 9, which was a hard one to get in a nice high grade. And it's very expensive if you do. And I went through a struggle to try to get one. And I found one that was over in the UK, and I bought it. And of course, had to wait forever for it to get here. And then I packaged it up with the other stuff I had for him, and I sent the package to him. And then I'll never forget this. The phone rang, and, it was him. And I'm like, hello. And before I heard anything else, all I heard was, no way, Fangoria number 9. And that's when I knew I hit a home run with that. So, see, just a guy with some simple pleasures. He didn't, he wasn't one who was, needing lots of, attention or craziness, just simple things, a old magazine, an old movie, and a good old song on the radio. That was his style. That was who he was. And, but of course he had some demons. He had depression, and he had other, issues like that. And I know when his mom passed, it really hit him hard. She was his security blanket, always there for him, always protecting him, always helping him. And I think when she was gone, that was probably where, the pain really hit. And now that he's gone, I just, I wonder sometimes, probably wonder forever if there's anything I could have said or done. I know there probably isn't, but you never stop wondering. And, I think back to something he said to me when his father passed. One of the things he said to me was, I'll never hear that yell again. Because, whenever he would do a bonehead play, his father would be there to, yell at him about it. That's what he would do. And he goes, I'll never hear that yell again. And, I know, but there's probably times since then that he probably wished he could have heard it. And for me, whenever I answer the phone and he's on there, it's like the first thing is, yo, that's the first thing he says. And I'm never going to hear that again. It's gone forever. But, my mother tried to help me with this and put in perspective and said, remember the good times. Remember the fun. You know, like the stories I've told here today. Remember that. That's what matters. And that's what I'm going to try to do. So, like I said, in honor of him, I'm wearing the Batman shirt, the Batman Superman comics, all in his honor today for this video. And I just want to say to any of you, if you have someone you care about, make sure you let them know. Make sure you do everything you can to help them. Because when they're gone, and there's no getting that back. So I just want to thank you all today for spending this moment with me, tributing a good person. We need more of in this world. And, and just like I said, just those close to you, always let them know how you feel. Don't think I got time, I can tell them later. You don't always do. You don't always do. And so I'm going to end this, and I will have some more stuff for you guys coming up here. I've got some stuff coming up. I'll still have that, and you may see me looking a little more cheery in those than I am right now, but that's because, I've pre-recorded them, as I'm guessing you probably already knew. But I will have that for you. But I want to also point out down there in the description, there's a link to an obituary for him where you can send flowers and whatnot, and also a link to a live stream, the only live stream I ever did with him. It's the only live stream I'm ever going to do with him. And you can see for yourself the kind of person he was. But I'm going to end this and say that I hope he's at peace now, and I'm going to miss him. And now I'm going to end this with a little bit. I took a snippet out of the live stream that I thought was a good moment to spotlight, to remember the good times and to show you the kind of person he was. So enjoy this little snippet that you're going to see. And until next time, as I always say, take care. From 1988, Detective Comics number 585, the intro of the Ratcatcher, with this incredibly detailed and very, visceral image by the great Jerry Bingham. So why don't you tell us a bit about this, my friend?
Hang on. I just want to tease him a little bit. I have a newsstand graded copy of this one.
Whoa.
I think I still have it. I couldn't even sell it. It's a lower grade because it's a newsstand copy. So it's like a 7.5, I think. So it's, because how newsstands are, right? Because they're, yeah. So a newsstand copy is harder to find. So yeah, no, I'll have to double check and figure out where it is. It's either a 7.5 or an 8.5. I don't remember, but it was below a 9. But yeah, super cool. First appearance of Ratcatcher. Go.
Well, here's the deal with this. I mean, I remember walking. This is in the spring of '88. I remember we were in 9th grade at the time, and I remember walking into the hobby shop in the mall. Remember that place? Yeah. Now, they had a comic rack, okay? And I just happened to be looking. I guess this thing was looking at me, and I was looking at it. As soon as I saw this cover, it just reached and grabbed and pulled me in, and I was like, whoa, check that out. So I picked it up right away, and I started looking at it and everything. So I was like, wow, this is really cool. I gotta get this. I gotta get it. So and they were only like 75 cents back then, so I mean, and I had like a couple dollars on me, but I got it. And I remember I really liked this issue, and I remember even taking it to the cashier. And I did this every time I got a comic book. I didn't want them to grab it and put it in the bag because they weren't going to handle it like I would have. So I always try to just explain that to them and say, hey, look, can I just put it in the bag myself? Because I just am real particular. And even with this issue, I didn't want them, because, they don't care. They just grab it and throw it in the bag, and it gets little crinkles on the cover and everything, And most of the people were pretty cool about it, and everything, and especially that guy, Greg, at that shop, Jim, he knew how to treat it. You didn't even have to ask him. He was a collector. He knew the deal, So, and then from there on, it was just like every month I got to get the next one. Then I got to get the next one. Then I got to get that. And then, I was just like, whoa. I mean, this is but I was already in the comics already, but I never got into any Batman comics, you know, until I saw this. And then I was like, wow, man, comics have really changed. Like, you know, I'm used to looking at Superman, but these are like really violent and have a lot of action. And the artwork is really, really eye-catching. So
well, speaking of which, let's show a piece from the inside here. Whoop.
Yeah, I mean, look at that. Yeah, look at that. Yeah.
There we go. This is from issue 585. This is
the Denny book, right?
This is the other rat catcher one that you were telling me about, right?
Yeah, this is from the issues 585 right here. This is a page from the issue with art by Norm Brayfogle right here.
Always love Norm.
Yep. So is this kind of like what you were talking about? Like you see how he throws the batarang and kills the rat, and then he gets knocked into the sewage by the rats? Is that what you mean by like how it was more violent minded than stuff?
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, rats are creepy to begin with, you know, and then the fact that he's in this situation like where he actually is being like attacked by him and stuff, and then you have this villain who is like basically tormenting and torturing these people in this prison he's keeping them in with these rats and everything. It was just a really interesting, disturbing, entertaining story. I mean, you know, you just wanted to know, all right, what's going to happen next. And I mean, it was really, you know, like I said, it'll always be my favorite comic, you know, I mean, and I got a lot of good ones, but that this will always be. And then, like I said, the next storyline is my second favorite, which is great, but you know.
Well, just to put in the somebody's upset.
Stop. That's all right.
He must. Sorry about that. He doesn't like rats either.
Yeah, he does.
Rat. But no, just so you guys know this, Brianni actually owns an original page from this issue. In fact, because I know
Thanks
that
to
because
you.
I bought it for many years ago. I bought him a page and got him the actual one of the original pages from this issue because I knew it was his first Batman story and one of his favorites. So
thanks to you.
It was an original of that. Yes.
You know, I think this is the Mafia's favorite issue too.